Today we shall discuss Neville Goddard's Imaginal Scene and how to construct it. Also, as to why it works. Presented by Manifestation Masters. Read by Emma. The pivotal principles governing reality creation are: law of consciousness, law of assumption, law of expression, law of harvest. Identical harvest. Neville Goddard was a profoundly influential teacher and author, a self-proclaimed mystic who wrote a dozen of era-defining books and gave thousands of lectures. Here is a brief overview of Neville's technique and the technique that Neville applied and shared the most. Choose a scene. Any scene that would come after the realization of your desire. Ensure that you can add sensory vividness to your chosen scene. Create a drowsy, sleepy state. Many wonder what this means. It is simply a state where you feel completely relaxed and can either be in a lying down on bed or simply seated in a comfortable chair. Repeat your scene in this sleepy state. Continue repeating until it seems real to you. It does not necessarily mean that you should see it exactly as you see things in the waking world, but instead that it appears so real that you have forgotten that you are imagining. If you become distracted, simple repeat. Feel as if you have already accomplished it. Neville frequently talks about feeling both as an emotion and a feeling of accomplishment. The best way to reach this feeling is an inner knowing that it is done, one of accomplishment. Happy emotions should follow if you have done it correctly. Either fall asleep while repeating the scene or wake up from this drowsy state once you know it is done. Live during the day from the end of your desire. Repeat the technique until you have an inner conviction that your desire is already yours. Our own imagination and thought create reality. What we think with feeling is expressed out in our real world. The principles of reality creation are based on these laws. Law of consciousness. Law of assumption. Law of expression. Law of harvest. Identical harvest. What we give our attention to holds our life. In his lecture The Power of Awareness, Neville writes about what is occupying our attention in any given moment. A duality exists in all things. By focusing attention on one thing, all others are inherently excluded from view in that moment. He goes on to say that man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. All that befalls a man, all that is done by him, all that comes from him, happens as a result of his state of consciousness. A man's consciousness is all that he thinks and desires and loves, all that he believes is true and consents to. That is why a change of consciousness is necessary before you can change your outer world. Rain falls as a result of a change in the temperature in the higher regions of the atmosphere. So, in like manner, a change of circumstance happens as a result of a change in your state of consciousness. You must be conscious of being healthy if you are to know what health is. You must be conscious of being secure if you are to know what security is. Therefore, to incarnate a new and greater value of yourself, you must assume that you already are what you want to be and then live by faith in this assumption, which is not yet incarnate in the body of your life, in confidence that this new value or state of consciousness will become incarnated through your absolute fidelity to the assumption that you are that which you desire to be. This is what wholeness means, what integrity means. They mean submission of the whole self to the feeling of the wish fulfillment. Imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. However, your nature is such that it is optional to you whether you remain in your present concept of yourself, a hungry being longing for freedom, health, and security, or choose to become the instrument of your own redemption, imagining yourself as that which you want to be, and thereby satisfying your hunger and redeeming yourself. In Chapter 5 of Power of Awareness he goes on to say, The great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. It cannot be emphasized too much that, by creating an ideal within your mental sphere, by assuming that you are already that ideal, you identify yourself with it and thereby transform yourself into its image, thinking from the ideal instead of thinking of the ideal. Every state is already there as mere possibilities as long as we think of them, but as overpoweringly real when we think from them. This was called by the ancient teachers subjection to the will of God or resting in the Lord, and the only true test of resting in the Lord is that all who do rest are inevitably transformed into the image of that in which they rest, thinking from the wish fulfilled. You become according to your resigned will, and your resigned will is your concept of yourself and all that you consent to and accept as true. You, assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled and continuing therein, take upon yourself the results of that state. Not assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are ever free of the results. To understand the law of consciousness we may look into some paragraphs from his book Feeling is the Secret. Chapter 1, Law and its Operation. The world, and all within it, is man's conditioned consciousness objectified. Consciousness is the cause as well as the substance of the entire world. So it is to consciousness that we must turn if we would discover the secret of creation. Knowledge of the law of consciousness and the method of operating this law will enable you to accomplish all you desire in life. Armed with the working knowledge of this law, you can build and maintain an ideal world. Consciousness is the one and only reality, not figuratively but actually. This reality may for the sake of clarity be likened unto a stream which is divided into two parts, the conscious and the subconscious. In order to intelligently operate the law of consciousness, it is necessary to understand the relationship between the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious is personal and selective, the subconscious is impersonal and non-selective. The conscious is the realm of effect, the subconscious is the realm of cause. These two aspects are the male and female divisions of consciousness. The conscious is male, the subconscious is female. The conscious generates ideas and impresses these ideas on the subconscious. The subconscious receives ideas and gives form and expression to them. By this law, first conceiving an idea and then impressing the idea conceived on the subconscious, all things evolve out of consciousness, and without this sequence, there is not anything made that is made. The conscious impresses the subconscious, while the subconscious expresses all that is impressed upon it. The subconscious does not originate ideas, but accepts as true those which the conscious mind feels to be true and, in a way known only to itself, objectifies the accepted ideas. Therefore, through his power to imagine and feel and his freedom to choose the idea he will entertain, man has control over creation. Control of the subconscious is accomplished through control of your ideas and feelings. The mechanism of creation is hidden in the very depth of the subconscious, the female aspect or womb of creation. The subconscious transcends reason and is independent of induction. It contemplates a feeling as a fact existing within itself and on this assumption proceeds to give expression to it. The creative process begins with an idea and its cycle runs its course as a feeling and ends in a volition to act. Ideas are impressed on the subconscious through the medium of feeling. No idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt, but once felt, be it good, bad or indifferent, it must be expressed. Feeling is the one and only medium through which ideas are conveyed to the subconscious. Let's read from Neville's lecture The State of Vision. It is a very practical lecture about the use and application of the law. It must be shared as it is here where Neville talks about using the five senses in imagination in a clear, definitive useful way that would bring out fruition. We have only to raise imagination to the state of vision and the thing is done. William Blake, Just imagine it. That is all you and I are required to do. No matter what it is we desire, we have only to raise imagination to the state of vision, and the thing is done. Now, when the prophets of old used the word vision in scripture, they meant all of the senses, either individually or in combination. Neville elaborates further by saying that the use of the word vision in scripture is not limited to the sense of seeing something. Vision can mean any of the five senses, that is sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. In his lecture The Source, Blake, claiming that his great poem Jerusalem was dictated from on high, stated, "All that you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow." Blake meant us to take that statement literally. All that you are conscious of is within you. Where else could it be? Looking out, and seeing this world as mechanical and not spiritual, causes you to remain lost in your search, for the world is your minor. You are its source. Everything you perceive is within, for it is in the head that God created the heavens and the earth. I am not speaking of your mortal head. It is only a symbol, a reflection of your immortal one. The day will come when your mortal head will return to dust, but there is a head that survives this one. A head capable of instantly restoring and clothing you in a mortal frame just like your present one, only young, to find yourself in a terrestrial world just like this. That is the head in which God sleeps. It is there that the pattern is buried. And it is in that head that the pattern man unfolds to reveal you as the source. Man finds it difficult to believe he is the cause of all life, yet I say there is no other. Look into the eye of your friend, or enemy, and you will see only yourself. You will see Jacob, the apple, little man, of God's eye. Imagination, God, is forever seeing himself reflected in the world, just as you, looking into the eye of another, see your reflected self. So the little boy looked into the well, and upon seeing his reflection said, "It's me," and the wise man replied, now you know who God is." This is not a story of a man who was blind, or of two sons that came out of the womb of a woman. This drama unfolds from within. Esau is the world you know by your reason and senses. The room you are now in is your Esau, while your subjective desire is your Jacob. Wearing garments of hair, Esau is the outer, objective world, which Jacob, your desire, is seeking to replace. As Isaac, the father, you have the power to give reality to your desired, subjective state. Invite it to come near, that you may feel it, to know whether it is as real as your outer world is. Isaac chose the sense of touch rather than that of sound, adding the sense of smell, saying, "You smell like Esau." Using these two senses, Isaac granted Jacob the right to become an objective fact. So when Blake tells us that if we will raise imagination to the state of vision the thing is done, he is speaking of vision in any one, or a combination of the five senses. Begin now to exercise Jacob by sending Esau out into the fields. Then clothe Jacob with the tones of reality by exercising one or all five of your inner senses. If you will become self-persuaded that your desire is already granted, even though it is denied by the outer senses, it will become a fact. I do not know how it will objectify itself, or when. I only know that when imagination is raised to the state of vision, the thing is done. Perhaps the sense of feeling is easy for you. If so, be like Isaac and touch your desire to see if it is Esau, real, or not. When reality was touched, Isaac said, "You have the smell of Esau, therefore the blessing is yours." Why? Because it seemed real to him. Money has an odor all of its own. Blindfold yourself and smell a dozen different pieces of paper. Make one of them $1, $5, or $10 bill, and the moment it reaches your nose you will know it is money, for there is something different about it. Choose the medium best for you and use it. Sound seems to be the easiest for many, yet if you love someone you will know the touch of their flesh and odor. If man didn't have a distinctive odor, how could a bloodhound find him? We think only in terms of the skunk ring, and know it can be used against a man because it is unique, but there is no dubious odor. There is no dubious voice. A voice can be imitated, but if recorded, its graph would not be like the original. You are unique, and when you love someone dearly you know their voice and what they feel like, and if you are close to them, you know their odor. Share the news of your good fortune with them. Hear them empathize with you. Listen to their voice carefully and revel in what you are hearing. Believe in what you have heard, and you have impregnated yourself with a message. I urge everyone to try it. It costs you nothing. Blake had a friend named Samuel Farmer, to whom he made this fantastic statement: raise imagination to the state of vision and the thing is done. You can do it by using any sense, either individually or collectively. You can imagine seeing and hearing at the same time. You can look as though you see, and listen as though you hear, but you determine what you want to see and hear. Bring them together. See and hear only your fulfilled desire, and watch the evidence unfold in your world. You can raise any sense, be it hearing, sight, sound, touch or smell, to the state of vision. I was drafted into the army during World War II, but I wanted no part of it. When my request for a discharge was disapproved, I did not get angry and try to go over the colonel's head. Instead, I lay down on my army cot, closed my eyes to the other 50 men in the room, and imagined I was 2,000 miles away in my apartment above Washington Square in New York City. Placing myself on my bed, I saw my wife sleeping in hers. Then I rose, and looking out the window, I saw the Holly apartments across the street and Washington Square down below. Turning, I walked into the living room, dining room, and the kitchen. I felt familiar objects and brought as many of my 5 senses alive in the drama as possible. At 4 o'clock in the morning I awoke hearing a voice say, "That which I have done, I have done. Do nothing." Who spoke those words? I did, but I heard them as coming from without. Knowing what I had done and what I had said, I walked in faith for 9 days, doing nothing on the outside. On the 10th day the colonel who had rejected my application called me into his office and gave me an honorable discharge. I brought feeling up to the state of vision. By feeling the bed and the various objects in the apartment, I fell asleep feeling the joy of being there. The colonel thought he initiated the desire to discharge me, but he had no choice in the matter. I imagined, knowing the world was my imagination pushed out, and everyone in it had to do what they are doing to aid the birth of what I had done. Knowing what you ought to do is not good enough. You must raise your imagination to the state of vision in order for the act to be committed. Then what must you do? Nothing. You simply watch the series of events unfold within your world. Remember, you operate your creative power, it does not operate itself. There must be action, a commitment on your part. Nothing, however, can be done to earn God's gift of grace. When God's promise fulfills itself, it happens suddenly and so dramatically that you have no time to think about it. In fact, you will not even recognize it, unless you hear it from someone who has experienced it. I know, as far as I am concerned, I never heard it from a man, or saw the Bible's story as relating to me. But I know from experience that the truth comes through an act of God in self-revelation. For God is hidden in the mind of man and unveils himself as man. Start now to exercise your God-given talents of sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, together, or individually. The sense of touch is the strongest in me. If someone expresses their desire to me in a letter, I touch the paper they wrote, believing they are telling me of their desire's fulfillment. I know only 1 out of 10 ever respond after I have granted their request, but that is all right. Having felt their letter and seen its contents, I know I have impregnated myself with the good fortunes they are desiring, and in so doing, my own captivity is being lifted. Right now, give something to a friend without their knowledge or consent. You have your 5 senses. Exercise them by bringing the objective body of Jacob to the surface. Clothe him in external reality as the Esau you would like to replace vanishes. What you have is your Esau. Your desire is Jacob. You are their father. Raise imagination to the state of vision and allow Jacob to supplant Esau. Then rest in that assumption and watch the change which takes place in your wonderful world. Thank you. Kindly subscribe to receive notification of our new videos.